Hi, this is Sitima Fowler, CEO of Capstone. I'm here today with Lori Van Dusen, founder and president of LVW Advisors. Now, Lori is a former Smith Barney advisor who left Smith Barney to start her own firm. And in 2011, Lori has become so successful, she was named America's Top 100 Women Financial Advisors by Barron's. And she's also been featured by Forbes. And she serves on a lot of local boards, including the U of R Medical Center, Nazareth College. So, Lori, we're so excited to have you here. You are a Rochester rock star. So let me ask you a few questions. There's a lot of wealth management firms. Why did you decide to start your own?
Well, it's been a vision for 20 years, and I think when I started in the business in 1987, I didn't really understand why the advisors didn't ask people about their life. You know, what are you trying to do with these assets? What are the problems that you're having? What else are you invested in? What are your ultimate wishes for this money? I mean, it was really amazing to me that people just basically sold product. And so my whole life, my business life, has been about providing holistic solutions. And there was a point at which I just felt that I couldn't continue to deliver to our client base the way I wanted to in a house structure like a big firm. So I was very ready to go out on my own, but I had small children, and it took me, you know, when I felt it was the right time, I joined an independent partnership. I basically sold to an independent partnership, and then I bought myself out. So it's been an evolution of an idea that started when I began in the business in 1987. So we provide independent, integrated advice. We act as a fiduciary, and we bring in everything in the client's financial world, from their estate planning to tax planning to business transition planning, not just the investments. So we're of the size and national reputation, and I think we have the resources to be able to do it the right way.
I love it, because there's so many, you know, financial wealth management firms, and I love the premise and what you're standing for. I think it's really nice. So, you know, deciding to go off on your own, I mean, you had to figure out, okay, how am I going to build my business? How am I going to build my practice? What is your strategy?
Well, I was fortunate, I guess we could say that now, of you know, I think that the mistakes you think you make in life always lead you, if you're really open to it, to the best things. So when I left Smith Barney, I was a little premature in my vision. I left, I joined a fairly large partnership, and it was a month before the financial crisis hit. And I just realized that my vision and the vision of the folks I joined weren't quite the same. And so I negotiated an exit out of there, and as I was doing that, I had a few months to really set the business up the way I wanted to, which was very fortunate, and it was amicable, and it worked out to be the best thing that could have happened. I wouldn't have chosen it, but it was the best thing that could have happened. And so at the time, I went about, you know, our strategic plan is really to grow both organically and inorganically. And organically, our business comes from, I think, doing a good job. We get referrals from existing clients. We are looking for a very specific kind of client fit, so we're not for everybody, and vice versa. So, so our clients, I think, understand, you know, what our value proposition is, and we get referrals. That's one way we grow, but I think where the business is going, you have to be, we're fairly large. We advise to about $3 billion in assets, but I have a very specific plan and goal of where we're going to be over the next 5 years. And some of that will happen naturally, but we're also looking at tuck-ins and acquisitions, and we're actually very close to doing a couple of those, and they're outside of Rochester, so our client base is very spread out too. I did not start out with a big client base in Rochester. It was mostly New York City, and New England, and kind of mid-Atlantic. And now we have a very significant Rochester client base, which is interesting. But we're looking to open a couple offices in locations that make sense in our market. So our market would be there's what's called the mass affluent. We're in the kind of ultra high net worth space.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing is organically you're growing just by the fact that you have figured out who you serve the best, and it's a narrow niche focus, so that's your specialty. You're not advertising to the mass public. And then as far as new business, looks like acquisitions and opening new branches is the way you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean it's very, again, getting back to your mistakes in life, kind of hopefully that's how you gain wisdom. And I know what the worst decision I could make is to decide to grow just for the sake of growing. I mean, you have to grow in business, but you have to do it the right way. And so I hired a COO, which is very interesting, another woman, a COO from had a wonderful background as an operating COO, CFO background, had a lot of different experiences in a large corporation, and I felt we needed to bring that into our business in order to execute on the vision that we had. So she's really responsible for, I like to say people have to, I create this wake, and then there's people behind me that have to kind of pick up the pieces. But I think, she's very integral to making sure that we can execute on that. But the biggest mistake I think people make in acquisitions is culture. It's, not having the proper cultural fit. And our cultural fit is, and this may sound cliche or like, what you may hear from others, but it really is all about the client and serving the client first and doing it objectively. What is the best thing for the client? How do we continue to raise the bar? How do we continue to enhance our service? And we want to marry up with people who think the same way and have been in business for, we're not looking to acquire practices or businesses just for the sake of doing it. We really want the right cultural fit and synergy.
So how do you figure out the cultural fit? Because a lot of people right now that I'm talking to is looking at acquisitions, because I guess the economy kind of lends itself to there's some businesses that are doing real well and some that are not, that are looking to get out. So how do you vet that out? How do you see if it's going to be a cultural fit?
Well, first of all, it's a good point. The economy, when you have a rough economy and a slow-growing economy, it creates opportunities for those that are kind of stronger. So I and it's true, in investing, when you're looking at companies, it's true in our business. But I think you have to spend a lot of time with people to know whether there's a cultural fit. You have to figure out ways to really triangulate about how they serve their clients, and you have to do that carefully. And I think, it's really, in the end, a judgment call after spending a lot of time with people. You never really know until you actually have executed on a deal if it's going to work. But I think, again, getting back to all the mistakes I've made, I think you really learn what questions to ask and how to ask, and really do a lot of due diligence prior to doing a deal to understand what these people are all about, how they serve their clients. Is it really about the client?
How long does it typically take for one of these deals?
Well, months and months. It's months and months. But, here's the thing. Here's the number one, maybe, indicator of cultural fit for us. I, in my lifetime, have never thought about money in terms of how much money am I making. It's never been about that. It's always been about, let's do the right thing for the client. Let's look at the whole picture. And you can tell immediately in this business whether someone is motivated directly by money or they're motivated by doing the right thing and serving the client. And that is probably the easiest way for me to kind of distill down cultural fit.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Perfect. So, in my business, we basically take care of other people's computer systems, and so we have a lot of financial institutions that are my clients, and I don't see a lot of women there. So it's gotta be a little different. And so how is that, being in this field and being a woman and having your own business?
Well, I think it's changed a lot. When I started in 1987, I was an anomaly. And, being a woman and being a young woman was very odd. So I started with a desk and a phone, in the World Trade Center, and I would call people, I'd cold call people. I had no contacts, nothing.
Good for you.
And,
awesome.
they'd hear me on the phone, and that would be, I'd just start asking them questions, again, getting back to, your first questions, what do you do with, what do you want to do with your assets? What are the problems you're having? And having a conversation, and that would lead to a meeting. And literally, I would walk in the room, and the person would go just white, because I don't think they expected me to be as young as I was. Mm-hmm. So that hurdle. So I always felt like my bar was very high.
Yeah.
And it was. And then, of course, the industry was not exactly welcoming. Let's put it that way. Yep. It was not exactly a welcoming place for a young woman, and I think you just make a determination that you're not going to let it get to you. Not right. That it didn't get to me, but you can either say, you know what, this is too hard and I'm not going to do it, or you can just kind of put your head down and jump higher. And right. And I know people don't like to hear that. I think a lot of people would like me to say everything should be equal and everybody should have, but in the end it's got to be about your desire. And yeah. And look, people are stupid. They do, people will be closed-minded and stupid, and you just have to learn to get a thicker skin and look for the goal. And my goal was, I wanted to make an impact on the business. I wanted to be successful, and I didn't really care what anybody else did. Yeah. All the power to them, but it wasn't about them. And it's still not. And so I don't really measure the business by, by anybody else. It's about what we're trying to do. So I really don't think about gender very much. I don't think about being a woman. I think, I think in some ways there might even be an advantage, because women I think in general the way we're raised and what's in our DNA is we tend to be good listeners. Yeah. Yeah. And ask, I think women can be very patient and analytical, and it's not about just getting to the answer. And I'm not, saying that that's how, I really don't like to talk about men versus women, because I don't really think about it that way.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. So. And, I can completely relate. And, starting out, I think I had the same feelings, but it has definitely, as I get older, in my 40s, it's like, I don't think that way anymore. I'm more secure, right. and I use the fact that I'm the only one that's going to be different in the room as to my advantage.
Well, I think it's true. I was joking. We had a conversation about this recently. I was interviewed, and I was saying, I used to minimize my appearance too. I used to pull my hair back. I
yep.
wear these stupid suits and now, it's kind of like, this is who I am.
Exactly.
And, you do. I'm more secure in what I do, who I am. And I think, again, getting back to my mistakes, a lot of your confidence comes, with my own kids. And I have a college-age son and one that's 16. It's about letting them fail. Mm-hmm. And learning from failure, making a commitment, going forward with it. All of those things give you confidence.
Yep.
And so it really, to me, is, it's, I think people look beyond the, what's on the surface when they know you, care,
yep.
and you're actually, you know what you're talking about,
exactly.
and you may be able to help them. So,
not only is she beautiful, she's very smart. So. Okay, so you have clients all over, it sounds like. So what is your Rochester connection? You live in Rochester. Is this where you're from?
I grew up in Rochester, and I moved back in the late 80s from New York because my grandparents with my mom had raised my brother and I, and they were getting older, and I thought, I'm starting to get some traction in this business, and I can do it from anywhere. And so I affiliated with a local office here, but I never really thought I would stay. And then when I met my husband, had my children, it's just such a great community. I love Rochester, and I can do what I do from anywhere. So I think it's just a gem.
So who are some of the people you admire in Rochester, and do you have a mentor?
Well, my mentor was my grandfather, who was I thought, for a man with an 8th grade education and kind of a lot of obstacles against him, was the smartest, kindest person I've ever met, who is a serial entrepreneur. And he definitely had an impact on, who I am. But so he would be my the mentor that I think about the most. I had the opportunity to work very closely with Jamie Dimon. He was my running partner when years ago when I was at Smith Barney, and he definitely, the people that were in leadership roles in the bigger corporations I was in, even though I kind of ran independently and ran my own business, I had very good support, I would say. While it didn't start out that way, I think I came up in business in a wonderful time and had the but locally, this is a very entrepreneurial community, and I have a lot of friends that I respect that are entrepreneurs who've been very successful here. I mean, if you think about Rochester, it was kind of like the Silicon Valley in the 60s and 70s, and the outgrowth of that is, there's tremendous philanthropy and education, and I respect a lot of people. I don't want to name names because I'm afraid I'm going to leave somebody out, but I have to say, there are women friends of mine who I think are just so amazing, and I look at what they've done, and then there are, people that I sit on boards with. You look at this community, it's a very impressive community of entrepreneurs. And so, I think that if you're not from here and you're not really working in the community to make it a better place, you wouldn't realize how many entrepreneurs there are, how many successful people there are.
I agree. So, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge and the things that you've gone through. And I think we're lucky to have talked to you just to get an insight of somebody, a female entrepreneur who's making it and started their, your own firm. Do you have any last words of advice for an entrepreneur?
I think you have to have a vision always. You always have to have a vision. You have to be very, very sterile and candid about your strengths and weaknesses. And when you execute on a vision, you have to have great people around you who can make up for all your weaknesses, which I think we have. But you have to be really candid about those, and you have to understand your marketplace. Competitive. What are your competitive strengths and weaknesses? And you can never do it alone.
So to wrap up, you're basically saying you have to have a vision. You have to have the right people on the bus to support you with your vision, and then you just have to look at your marketplace to make sure it supports your vision.
Yeah, and you have to keep, I continually push the envelope. I want to know where is this going to be in 5 years, because we need to be ahead of it. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. You're a Rochester rock star. and if you want to be interviewed for a future Rochester rock star, go to www.rochesterrockstars.com, and I look forward to meeting you soon.